Okay, Math 3, unit circle. We're going to be going through how to create our unit circle. You need to know how to do this for your test. So, part of this we're not going to fill in today. We're going to fill it in later, but we're going to deal with all of our degrees, and we're going to deal with what each of these points on the circle is. So, starting with our degrees, do you guys see how we have degree signs here? Okay. At this point right here, it is what degree? 0 degrees. Do we agree? And then when we go up to this point up here, it is at what? 90. I'm going to use. Okay. Down here it's 180. 180. At the bottom here it's. And then notice there's another spot here which we're going to put. Very good. Okay. Now, in this quadrant, if you were to cut 0 and 90 in half, you end up with 45. Okay? Which means the half of this one right here is also 45 degrees, but how do I get that specific measurement? Yeah, or 90 plus 45. Okay? And so what's 90 plus 45? Okay, same thing with the middle here. We'd have to take 180, add 45 to it, which would be 225. And then the halfway point here would be, yes, Jen? How did I get 45 degrees? You're between 0 and 90. If you take 90 and divide it by 2, it's 45. Okay? Okay, so then on this one, 270, and we add another 45, and we get what? 315 is correct. Okay. Do you guys feel okay about that? All right. So this right here, does anybody know what it's going to be? 30. Because we're dealing with our 30s, our 45s, and our 60s, okay, on this unit circle. And so this one is 30, which means this is where it's kind of different, because here this is where my 30 is, because remember how it's always coming from the 180 mark, and so 180 minus 30 gives us what? 150. And the 30 angle is at this point in this quadrant. Because it's going up, this makes it 30. It's the smallest. Okay, and so 180 plus 30 would make 210. And then same thing here in this quadrant, the 30 angle. We'd go 360 minus 30, which is 330. Are we okay there?
Yes.
So this last one we know is going to be 60. And there's a couple ways of doing this, but it's like saying that this angle right here, that is my 60. And so in order to figure out what this is, I would take 180 minus 60 to get to this point, which would be what? 120. To get this 60, I would add 60 to 180, which would make, okay, and on this one I would subtract. The other way, and maybe actually this is easier. Did anybody notice a different way we could have done that? If this is 60, you add another 60 to get 120. You add another 60 to get 240. Add another 60 to get your 300. Okay, so putting in all of your degrees first is important, okay? Does anybody have questions on the degrees? Okay, the next thing to put in would be these ordered pairs at our like our 0, 90, 180, 270. So remember that we're dealing with one unit, a unit circle. So we talked about how this will be some form of 1 and 0. So what is this point? On the x-axis, it's going to 1, and on the y, it's going to 0. So this is 1, 0. Okay, our 90-degree angle is going what on the x-axis? 0, good. And then 1 on the y. At 180, it's at, good, -1, 0. And down here at our 270 mark, it's at 0, -1. Okay, a couple things that I want you to write on this to remember is that in dealing with your ordered pairs, it goes cosine and then sine. X, Y. And so remember how we talked about alphabetically, C comes before S, just like X comes before Y. So that's how I remember cosine is dealing with X, sine is dealing with Y. So far, so good? Okay, now this is where, when we're trying to find these ordered pairs, is where this sheet that I gave you for work is going to help us. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take this out. I'm going to try to make it so it's all on the same screen. If you notice on this work page, I have the coordinate plane on here, so there's going to be a 30, 60, or sorry, 30, 45, and 60 triangle, and see how they're flipping over back and forth, how they would be formed in those quadrants. Okay? So, starting here in our first quadrant, my first angle is down here. Okay? And so we're going to go with this first triangle right here. So, the bottom angle here is 30 degrees. Which means that the top is what? 60 degrees. Okay? So, on this one, what number goes across from my 30 degrees? 1. Okay? And then my hypotenuse is 2, and the 60 is √3. Okay, so cosine goes in the x spot. What is the cosine of 30 degrees? Cosine is adjacent, which is √3 over 2. Is this fine to put as my answer? Good. So we're going to go to our sheet here, and my x value is √3 over 2. Now we have to take, for my y value, is sine. Okay? And so my sine of 30 is what? Which is? Opposite of 30 is 1 over hypotenuse, which is 2. So the y value is 1/2. Well, see, if I give you this work, don't you feel like you could do it? So yeah, so I'm going to give you the worksheet and the circle, and you're going to go through, but you're going to see there's a lot of patterns. Okay? Okay, so my next triangle is dealing with the what? 45. Good. So we have 45, 45, 90. What numbers go across from the 45s? 1. Please put away cell phones. And my hypotenuse is √2. Okay, so again at this point, what would be my cosine value? So cosine, we're always looking at our angle down here. Do you guys remember what that's called? Your reference angle, exactly. Okay, very good. So it's 1 over √2. Now, is 1 over √2 an okay answer? No, what does that change to? Very good, √2 over 2. So that means my x value for 45 is √2 over 2. What will be my sine of 45? Same thing, good. So I don't have to work the sine out because it's going to be the same answer. So it's √2 over 2. Okay, and then this last one up here, this one angle or this triangle is going to be what? Good, but in our reference angle spot, it's going to be a 60. and then up here is a 30. Okay, so across from my 30 is my 1. Across from my hypotenuse is 2, and across from my 60 is root 3. So on my 60 angle, what is my cosine? Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, right? So adjacent is 1 over 2. What is my sine? Good, root 3 over 2. And is that answer okay? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to stop here for 1 minute and see if I have questions. So basically, what you have to remember is how the numbers match up in your 45 triangles and your 30, 60, 90 triangles. And then you have to remember that cosine is opposite over hypotenuse, and sine is, I said the opposite. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, and cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay? But if you have that, you should be good. All right, so you guys ready to move to our quadrant 2? No questions? Okay. So, we have our work here for quadrant 2. Now, this is where it's just a little bit different because there are going to be some negative values. From your point of origin in the center, when you're going left, it's a negative value. So you want to make sure that you're putting a negative value for your x's in this case. Okay? So starting here at the bottom, this is a what degree? The first one, remember this first angle here is your 30 degrees. So this right here, it's always going to go in this order. 30, 45, and 60. Okay, because it's always going up to the x-axis. The smallest one from the x-axis is always your 30. The next largest one's your 45, and the next one is your 60. Okay, so that means here is your 60, and this is 90. Okay, what number goes across from my 30? 1. Across from my 90 is my 2, and across from 60 is root 3. But we want to mark that as a negative root 3. Okay, are there questions? Because I hear lots of talking, and I really don't want there to be any talking. So if you have a question, I would be happy to answer it. Okay. Cosine is our x value. Okay, and so cosine of 30, again, you're always going from the reference angle spot. Okay, what is opposite of this 30? Adjacent of this 30. Negative root 3 over my hypotenuse, which is 2. So here in my 30 spot, we have negative root 3 over 2 for the x value. Because from our point of origin where this starts, it's going left on this triangle, and left is negative. So any x values this way are negative where y is positive. Okay. So then our y on this, the sine of 30 is opposite, which is 1 over 2. Okay, for my 45, 45, 90 triangle, what numbers go on here? But what is different? Which one is negative? Okay, this one is negative because on the x-axis where this is, it's going left. So this is our negative 1. What is my cosine of 45 degrees? Good, negative 1 over root 2, but we would end up changing that to be what? Negative root 2 over 2 is correct. Is anybody confused by why that's that way? We're just rationalizing the denominator, right? Okay, and so my y or my sign is going to be the same answer, correct? Except for it will be positive. So positive root 2 over 2. Okay, so then we have our 60 degree. If this is 60, then this one is 30. Okay, so across from my 30 is always 1. My 90 is 2. And my 60 is root 3. Except for negative 1. Okay, what will be my cosine on this problem? Good, negative 1 over 2. And what will be my sine? Sine will be root 3 over 2. Now, I'm going to stop for a minute before we go to the bottom. And I want us to look to see on the first half of our circle, do we see any patterns between the points? Very good. So here it's all the same values on both sides, but because it was going left, our x value was negative. But it went up, so our y value is positive. So on this 30 angle here, is it going to be the same x and y value? So how do you think this point and this point are going to change? Both of them will be negative, right? Because you're going left for the x and down for the y. And so this will be negative root 3 over 2 and negative 1/2. And that is the correct answer. Yes. Okay? But I wanted you to see the pattern. Okay? So on this next one, it's going to match with our 45 degree. And so what will this one be? Very good. Negative root 2 over 2 and another negative root 2 over 2. What will be, I needed to actually show this, what will be my next one? Very good. Negative 1/2 and negative root 3 over 2. Yes, because one is your x and one is your y. So it's the same points, like, so these are the same points, they're in the same order. The only thing that's changing is the negative or the positive. And so, okay, quiet please. Shh. Yes, the only thing that's changing is your negative or positive. But we know, starting here at 0, 0, left is negative, down is negative. So all these ordered pairs are going to be negative, okay? While if you notice in the first quadrant here, everything's positive. Your x's are positive and your y's are positive. In quadrant 2, your x's are negative, but your y's are positive. So what's going to happen in the fourth quadrant? Our x is positive, but y is negative. So looking at these points up here, this point right here is going to be root 3 over 2, comma, negative 1/2, because our y is negative. So the next ordered pair is going to be root 2 over 2 and then negative root 2 over 2. The next one will be 1/2 or 1 over 2 and negative root 3 over 2. Okay, do we have any questions? I'm going to leave that there for a minute on this before I stop recording.